Someone commented recently and they asked me to do a video on how to really learn a tune. I actually have a whole video of me learning on the spot, bewitched, bothered, and bewildered. So I'm going to link that below, but I'm going to talk about this process again because it's so important and it really is something I pride myself in taking the time and doing certain steps to ensure that when I learn a tune, I know it for life, or the recall will be very quick if I don't know it for life. Now, I think one of the things that I need to preface with is that I've played a lot of gigs. I've been extremely fortunate to play at least 1,000, probably way more gigs of many kinds in many different types of ensembles and settings, whether it's with modern jazz groups or funk bands or a Steely Dan cover band or my trio, whatever. Most of my gigs have been situations where I'm not reading music. Or if I am, because I do read music, it's also something I pride myself on, but if I am reading music, I do enough homework where it's really more of a guide and making sure I have the form and some critical details, especially if it's more complicated and challenging and very part specific, like if I'm in a large ensemble or it's musical or something like that. But even then, I'm gonna know the hell out of the parts. So this all applies. But basically, I've had so much experience doing this, and I love learning music by ear and nothing else. I don't even really write out much at this point. But here's what I will tell you about learning a tune. I say this all the time to my students. What is a song? What is a tune? What are we actually learning? Well, you have to remember, if I play this, I can't copyright that. But if I play this, now it's a song. Now it might as well be spring. The melody is the number one most important thing. Otherwise, you don't have the song. And of course, I'm going to quote an Ed Bickert anecdote very briefly and probably with some holes somewhere in the middle. But Ed famously knew every tune ever, like all the songbook tunes and the hit parade tunes and the big band tunes. Like he knew all of them by heart, the verses that no one plays and all the lyrics and in any key, whatever. There was apparently a gig that he did and a saxophone player called a tune he didn't know. Some, who knows, like rando, back of the book Cole Porter tune or something from a throwaway musical. And Ed was like, okay, I'll play it. That's fine. The sax player wrote out the changes and he gave it to Ed so he could read it and they could play the tune. Well, sax player turns to Ed after he's done blowing, and Ed's like, no, I'm good. So he's like, okay, and then goes to the bassist, and then they go, take the head out, and after the tune, the sax player walks up to Ed and he's like, hey, why didn't you blow? Like, you had the changes. Was something wrong? Ed was like, well, I'm not sure how to play over something I don't know the melody to. That's it. You have to know the melody no matter what instrument you are. And, speaking of Ed Bickert, you listen to Don Thompson play with Ed or anyone. Don, the bassist, he knows every freaking melody. And he's always starting his solos with melodies or referencing them throughout. And that's such an important part, whether you're a drummer, a bassist, guitarist, vibraphone, flute player, French horn, whatever your part is, you need to know the melody. So I can't understate the value and the importance of the song. And the song is a melody. If I'm going to look at a tune like It Might As Well Be Spring, I actually learned this the old school way when I was in grad school at Bowling Green State University, and I was in I don't know what I think it was my jazz pedagogy class with David Bixler, the head of the program, and he was teaching the class tunes. It was like four grad students, and a couple of seniors, and we would learn tunes every week, and he would play the melody, and we would play it back, and then he'd like play the bass lines, and we'd I'd kind of guess at the chords, and he was like no, and so it was super old school where someone is showing me this song. And of course, that's a privilege that most people don't get to have. And you hear about stories of Roy Hargrove at Smalls, the session. If someone didn't know a tune, he would come up and he'd show them the tune and show them on piano and the trumpet, and he wouldn't stop until they got it. That's the lineage. And I actually played with Roy Hargrove at a small session once, and I'm not at all trying to toot my horn. It was such an amazing experience though, because I was sitting there. This was like 10 years ago probably, and he walks up. I'm like, oh my god! And then he called "Ugly Beauty," which is a Monk tune, the only tune that Monk wrote in 3/4 time, and I knew it. I had like just learned it, and I was like, oh fuck yeah! Like I know this like secret Monk tune. I'm gonna play, and I really don't remember a whole lot. I remember I was scared shitless, and it doesn't matter how I sounded because that's never the point. But I could tell that he was there to give someone like me that feeling of holy shit, like this music is so deep, so serious, and it really matters. You have to know the tunes. You can't sort of like kind of learn the changes and kind of know the A sections and then forget the bridge and just think it's okay to shred your licks over it instead. No. I'm thinking of all these stories now. I was also in grad school, and I think it was. Sorry, I had to look him up. Dana Stevens, the great saxophone player. And it was during COVID, so he was doing a remote masterclass with us, and he said something to the effect of let don't let the melody be your, don't let the melody be simply a gateway to get to your improvisations. Don't let it be something you feel like is a task, like let's just get through the head and then I'm gonna blow. Like that's the whole point. Even though in this music we are playing our own melodies, but we don't have the luxury of playing over a song if we don't have the song. So I keep digressing with these stories, but they're occurring to me in the moment, which is nice. I like being able to remember these things. But practically speaking, let's get into it. If I need to learn a tune, it might as well be spring. I'm going to do a couple things right off the bat. I'm going to look up the history of the tune. And I'll just show you exactly what I'm doing here. Okay. It might as well be spring. And before AI, I would, go straight to Google. And what I want to do is figure out what is the earliest recording, the earliest version. And there's also another website I like to use called Songbook One. I don't know. It's some weird. Not weird. It's a blog, that someone updates with like every tune ever, and they have posts about each tune in the history, which is super killing. So might as well be spring. Okay, Rodgers and Hammerstein, great. Shows us that it's from looks like a movie, State Fair. Okay, all right, this is the original. They always do the first one first.
Margie,
Lovely.
have you finished your packing? Not yet. I was just.
So I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but I'm going to watch it and I'm going to figure out what is this tune about? Like, why does this tune exist? Are there anything are there any things that I really need to pay attention to that might be lost when it's actually translated into jazz recordings? Because as great as a recording can be of insert any jazz musician playing a tune, there often can be some details that are missed with the exact melody notes, and that's not a slight on the musicians, but that's because they're doing their own interpretation and they have that license because they know it. Most of the time, so I want to know the exact melody. So I'm usually going to learn it from this recording or these old Margaret Whiting. All this stuff. Bing Crosby, Sammy Kaye. These are classic. I'm going to go to those early singers. And, they're pop singers. It's not jazz. They're singing the songs, and they're not fussing with it. There's no improvising. There's great arrangements and really nice musicianship, but it's a presentation of the song and not a vehicle for, people to blow for 10 minutes. So I'm going to use old recordings like this, find some information about the tune, and then get an idea of what is the lineage of the song, who are the people that have made famous recordings of it, are there any versions that are so iconic that you kind of have to learn something from that recording, like for instance, All the Things You Are. Like everyone knows that intro. That's not from the original tune, but we all do that because of the iconic recording. Or Autumn Leaves. Not that everyone does that every time, but we all do. Certain hits that everyone kind of does, or maybe a style change. This tune, for instance, I love Ed Bickert. Go figure. I love Ed Bickert's version, and he does it in an up-tempo bossa style, and I love playing the tune like this. So that's how I like to play the song, because of someone's recording that I admire, and that's from a rhythmic feel and style perspective, and of course he just crushes it. Okay, I just pulled a couple books from my collection, and one that I go to first is The Jazz Standards by Ted Goya, great writer, and he has a bunch of books, but this one I like because it's exactly what it says. I think was it like 250 jazz standards and a bit of history, some context around the composers, and then famous recordings. So let's see if this tune is in here. It might as well be Spring. Oh, yep, there we go, 206. So State Fair, the 1945 film that produced, okay, blah, 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 blah. It's going through the history. Recommended version, Sarah Vaughan, Clifford Brown, Nina Simone, Joe Zawinul, Ike Quebec, Errol Garner, Stan Getz, Sonny Stitt, Josh Redman. Cool. Now I have a solidly comprehensive list of versions from 1950 to 1998. That's fantastic. And I get some information about the tune and its history. Apparently, State Fair won an Oscar for this song. I didn't know that. That's cool. And I love history and I love research and I love the era and of which these songs came from, and not because I'm like romanticizing the 40s and 50s at all, but I do think that this is a special part of American culture, the American Songbook. And then there's this tune, Easy to Jesus. It is a tune called Easy to Remember. But this is a book, easy to remember, The Great American Songwriters and Their Songs. There's tons of books like these. These are just ones that I have found over the years and have kept. And this one kind of goes more by the composers, obviously. But there's a part in the book, songs by category, songs about time, Round Midnight, My Shining Hour, Some Other Time, Meteorology, Stardust, I've Told Every Little Star, Ill Wind, My Blue Heaven. Like, what? Idioms, Fools Rush In, I've Got the World on a String, Come Rain or Shine. Tunes that have questions. Who? Why do I love you? Why was I born? Why shouldn't I? So it's just real estate on the sunny side, on the sunny street where you live. Or, sorry, on the street where you live, sunny side of the street. Down in the depths on the 90th floor. Interesting stuff to me. Okay, now I've got those resources at my disposal, and I've gotten to a place where I have looked at the melody. And I'll deal with, the first half of the A section of It Might As Well Be Spring. And I need to know the form. That's hugely important because we have to know the box of which the size of the box and how its compartments are organized. So this It Might As Well Be Spring is an AABAC tune. It's a long tune. So it's like a 32 bar AABA, but then there's an extension, like a whole other section of another 8 measures. Then I catalog that with other tunes. Well, that's another tune with an AABAC. One would be It's All Right With Me. Really cool tune. That's also another longer one with an AABA plus a C at the end. But all right, I've settled on that. I know the form, and I'm going to use the key that's very commonly played. G. That's the first part of the melody. See what I'm doing? I'm able to play it all over on my instrument, anywhere. Because I know this. I'm in the key of G, and it starts on the 5. 5, 5, 6, 5, 5, 5, 6, 5, 5, 1, 6, 5. I like using those numbers because often the original recordings are not in the key that is commonly played with jazz groups or at a session, jam session. So I want to be able to transpose and distill this in scale degrees pretty quickly. And, some people ask, do you use scale degrees based on the key or the chords? It depends. But I mostly try to think of the overall key first, because if I try to think 6, 5, 5, 5, now it's the 5 of the 2 chord. There's too many chords, and I don't want to have to do that. All I need to do is think of the key of G. Then I can deal with the harmony later and how it intersects with that. Because now, the key of E flat. Now I've got it, no problem. I'm back in G. And I'll be honest, I'm not great with lyrics in general. I have a very strong bias against the English language when it comes to music. My ears go to harmony. They go to all sorts of other places before they go to words. And it takes a good amount of effort for me to learn lyrics over time. But I do at least want to know, what is the correct, what is the phrasing of the melody and the syllabic stress. Because some words might be together instead of ba, right? So you want to be thinking. I'm restless as a willow in a windstorm. So good. I pulled up the lyrics, and now I want to start playing this as if I'm, reciting poetry, because that's what this is, right? I'm as restless as a willow in a windstorm. I'll play it like that. I'm as restless as a willow in a windstorm. I'm as restless as a willow in a windstorm. Oh, sorry. I don't have to go line by line, and frankly, I don't do that for every single tune, but it is a part of the process, and I have done it with lots of tunes. So I want to be able to look at the lyrics and match up the melody notes with the words that I'm seeing. So I know how many D's, how many, iterations of one note, one pitch there's supposed to be to match the syllables of the song. Whether I always play it like that remains to be seen, but I need to know where this all comes from and what it should be so that I can intentionally change it. So I've got the first part of this melody, and now the next step for me is to put the root motion underneath it. Not like that. So now I can play the melody and the roots underneath, and it does not need to be performance ready, or I can put those roots wherever. I do want to kind of hear them in a lower register so I can tether them in my aural memory, hear that as a bass voice, but I can also do and I'm going to do the whole A section so you can kind of hear where this is going. A section. I can play the roots and the melody. I can do it all over the place. I didn't practice this like right now. I'm just doing it because I know the tune pretty well, but I want to have at least the ability to find my roots on the E and the A string, so then I can put voicings underneath eventually. So be able to have a little bit of versatility and agileness with putting those bass notes underneath the melody, and they don't have to be at the same time. It doesn't have to be a technical feat. So they can be separate, and that's totally fine. The point is, I want to be able to hear the interaction of the melody and the root motion, which often will give me a sense of what the harmony is. Of course, a lot of songs are very on the nose, like All the Things You Are. It's all the third of each chord. So that's very explicitly telling you what the harmony is. There's really no question about it. But even with a tune like this, where you have a lot of the fives, 5, 5, you're still getting vital information. And, a tune isn't going to have a bunch of crazy, chromatic notes, at least in this style. Otherwise, it won't be memorable and singable. That's the point of all this. This is downloading information and style into your playing by learning melodies, because when we're improvising, we're creating our own melodies. The best way to figure out how to do that is to learn a bunch of melodies in a very deep way. Cool. So I'm still pretty much dealing with the melody right now. And the next thing I want to do is, okay, how do people paraphrase this? Meaning, what are the different devices and tricks and skills that a musician's going to use to play the melody in their own way? Whoops, I already pulled it up. So here's Ed playing it. Go back. Oh, he's in F. So he's in F. I don't care. I could play the whole tune because using the scale degrees and Roman numerals with the changes, which I haven't talked about. But how is he? He's got the same melody notes: 5 5 6 5 5 5 6 5 5 1 6 5. But there's a little bit of extra sauce in there with his rhythmic choices, and obviously he's playing it as an up-tempo bossa. So there you go. I'm going to pull up someone else. It might as well be Spring. See what we come up with. The Brad Meldau version is cool, but it's in 7, I think. So we don't want to do that. 7/4.
1, 2, 3.
Stan gets Astro Gilberto and Ciao Gilberto. Live at Carnegie Hall.
I'm as restless as a willow in a windstorm. I'm as jumpy as a puppet on a string.
Oops, pressed the wrong pause. This is a perfect example. Da 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 da. They're in D flat. My favorite key, the people's key.
I'm as restless as a willow.
There's subtlety on a grand level when you zoom in. There's a little bit of a pause there.
I'm as restless as a willow.
I'm as restless as a willow. Ooh, that little bit. There's such care in the way that she's presenting the melody and the lyrics right off the bat. So I want to be able to transcribe that and play along with it. Don't transcribe people's solos, transcribe people playing a melody. It's the best gateway to improvisation.
I'm as restless as a willow in a wind.
And I'm not going to do it right now because I would want to take my time. But that's what I'm going to go to. I'm going to listen to different versions. Find, wow, I really like how Astrud is singing this song, or I love how Bill Evans plays this, or I love how Josh Redman does it, etc. Let's go to the harmony. And this is where there's a precipitous cliff as to people's confidence and ability to learn a tune by ear once you get to the harmony. So this whole time, if you're still watching, I haven't brought up lead sheets or charts. And, fake books, real book charts, they're a valuable tool, no doubt. They have their issues, but at this point, there are lots of legit versions that have been vetted and edited and compiled in lots of newer editions. So generally things are going to be cool, but as a general rule, I don't trust anything on the internet with my eyes. Especially if it's with music, I trust with my ears. But I can use a lead sheet as a guide, but only a guide. And I'm going to, because it's cross-reference, right? Because if 3 recordings of famous jazz musicians do something that's different than what's on the real book, I'm probably going to follow the recordings versus what's on the real book. And often it's the most important subtle details that are a little bit wonky or not quite right in the real book changes on a lead sheet. Sometimes they're just downright wrong, actual errors. But I'm going to distill the A section as 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 6. Turn around to the 4 chord. Now I'm at 4. Now I have, I call this 5 over 4, and then 3, 6, 2, 5, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. It's all in the key of G, at least for these A sections. And I want to do a couple things. Sorry. I want to be able to sing it, even if I'm not an amazing singer. And then I want to do the opposite, where I play the melody and sing the bass notes. There's no thought. There's no question in my mind when I tie those things with my actual voice. My body is making airwaves along with my instrument. That creates a really tight bond between my ears, my fingers and the instrument, and then also turning the wheels of the theory and getting that analytical gear greased as well. So I've got that together, and I made a little loop of the A section, and I'm past the point where I've played the melody a bunch, out of time, in time, with the root notes, with myself, maybe with a backing track, etc. And now I'm gonna start getting into improvising. And what I'll suggest, I'm not going to go over what to do over this tune because that's not the point. But the point is, I want to be able to weave in and out of the melody at any time. I want to be able to be playing and end up and just say, oh, I'm going to grab the melody right now. So I'm going to play maybe an A section or 2. It's only the A section loop. I can't loop any longer. So I'll blow, but at certain points, I'm going to go into the melody, hopefully, at a moment's notice. wherever I felt like it, I'm going to grab the melody notes. Those are my strong anchors for improvising. And, you know, I didn't talk about the rest of the melody, but that's such a cool line. It's 5 5 3 5 1 3 5 1 7 flat 7. Like, that's a killing line. Why not take advantage of what's already there? You know, I can use that as a basis somehow for my improvisation. Let's see what happens. So I was loosely taking that arpeggio idea. You know, that descending arpeggio line, that's now a thread that I can pull on as long as I want to. So I'm creating a bunch of melodies that are my own, but they have a very clear and direct connection to the song. I can even go, this is the last thing I'll do, as granular as da 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 da. That's going to be my motif. There we go. That's something I can fuss with. So, Jesus, this is a long video. I think I'm gonna stop here. Hopefully, this gives you an insight into all the steps I'm thinking. This is kind of like a, you know, like a tech bro watching, trying to learn, fucking philosophy, watching a video at 3 times speed or something. I'm going through this really quickly, but that's not at all how I actually want you to do it yourself. This process takes a long time, and I'm not talking about sitting with one tune on one night and dealing with it. This is years of learning, and everything I've arrived at right now has come through lots of trial and error, and methods that didn't work, or ways that I was not setting myself up for success. Again, I had a lot of that laboratory experience on the street, a lot of mentorship, you know, learning tunes literally on the bandstand. I cannot tell you how many tunes I've had to learn on the bandstand, like Tony Monaco, amazing organist who I play with and never recorded with. He'll say, "Hey, do you know it's you or no one?" I'm like, "What the fuck? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Oh shit! Okay, fucking, like, yeah, I learned that tune on the gig. Like, I know Dexter Gordon has a version of it, but like, I just had to deal with it. And then I'd forget about it, or I'd write it down. I'd always write it down, but I'd forget to, like, you know, maybe go to a recording and make sure I really know it. Then the next thing he calls it, I'm like, okay, I think I got it. But I remember very clearly playing that tune for the first time at a gig with him, and I remember, you know, a couple choruses in, I had figured out the changes. I was like, all right, cool, I got it. And now, of course, that's a different story than being able to, have killer solos over it. And I didn't know the melody at all, but I knew the form ABAC, and I knew the changes within a couple choruses, and that was literally in the moment doing it. So those experiences, those pressure cookers, if that's not going to ingrain a tune, make an impression, then I don't know what will. Not everyone has that opportunity, and I've been very grateful. But also don't wait around for people to call you or knock on your door. Find those opportunities. Put yourself in rooms where these things are happening, because they are happening. You have to take some time and care. Get out there. Thanks for watching.